With Jackie Gleason's witty banter and iconic onliners reverberating through American living rooms. The Honeymooners was one of the most adored programs of the 1950s. However, there was tension beneath the laughter due to stories of outset feuds, careless late-night antics, and even an accident that almost put a stop to production. Then followed the notorious incident that left CBS officials reeling and spectators in disbelief. Comedy was no longer the only thing. There was debate. And the Honeymooners may have been taken off the air for good because of that one moment. Originally known as Cavalcade of Stars on Dumont, Jackie Gleason's variety show featured the Honeymooners as a frequent sketch. Later, it was called The Jackie Gleason Show on CBS. These short sketches, which starred Audrey Meadows as Ralph Creighton's witty wife, Alice, and Jackie Gleason as his hot-tempered Brooklyn bus driver, attracted a lot of attention due to their authenticity and working-class comedy. However, the characters were so well liked by 1955 that Gleason turned them into a stand-alone, half-hour sitcom called The Honeymooners, which made its CBS debut. Even though it was the second most popular show in the nation, it terminated prematurely after only 39 episodes. Despite numerous issues, The Honeymooners were eventually taken off the air due to a notorious scene. The notorious incident wasn't prearranged. Jackie Gleason delivered Bang Zoom directly to the moon during a live production of The Honeymooners. Since it was frequently used in the program, this was meant to be a well-known humorous line. However, it changed from a humorous line to a frighteningly ominous one. Ralph Creighton changed from a well-intentioned blowhard to something much more dangerous in just one instant. Audiences in the studio reportedly became rigid. Sponsors and executives flinched. The decision to end the production was ultimately influenced by the intensity of that scene. CBS chose to let the series conclude after the first 39 episodes, without any fanfare or explanation. Rather than capitalize on the show's popularity, fans discovered that there was a lot of frightening material hidden beneath the show's portrayal of a gritty working-class marriage. This was particularly true of Ralph's frequent humorous threats of domestic abuse. Indeed, Bang Zoom Straight to the Moon was allegedly a domestic violence threat. He was simply abusing his wife by using space travel as a metaphor. They also show that Ralph's threats against his wife were not healthy to broadcast on television, even though many people found them funny. Today's television would never be able to broadcast something like that. Although that wasn't the only reason it ended, this startling scene was the final nail in the coffin for the Honeymooners. It demonstrated that everyone had finally come to the conclusion that the show was flawed. However, there were a variety of problems, such as low budgets and dropping ratings. Following this moment, CBS had to abruptly conclude the original 39-episode run, leaving fans without a final explanation or on-air farewell. On the surface, ending a well-known sitcom with a single line seems like a pretty dumb idea. However, live energy, intensity, and incisive comedic timing were what made the newlyweds succeed. Therefore, it was sufficient to end the concert, because that famous line exposed a precarious equilibrium between laughter and discomfort. The Honeymooners was a ratings juggernaut, and one of the top 2 shows in the country, when it debuted as a standalone, half-hour sitcom in October 1955. However, the show's prominence was short-lived, as it lost ground to rival shows, including NBC's Perry Co. Show, and went from number 2 to about number 19 and number 20 during the season. Additionally, critics disapproved of the format of the broadcast. It was laborious, according to publications like Broadcasting and Telecasting magazine and the New York Times. Because it lacked the spontaneity that made the live sketch version so captivating, they disliked it. Even before the incident brought on by the live broadcast, they were re-evaluating whether they wanted a new season, due to the drop in viewership and critical response. The Honeymooners' production cost was far higher than that of its sketch-based predecessors. The programs were filmed live in front of an audience, utilizing the then-current electronic equipment. Much investment and organization were needed for this approach. In order to turn the sketches into a half-hour sitcom, Jackie Gleason reportedly managed to get a huge $11 million investment for 3 seasons and 195. However, after 39 episodes, he notified the sponsor that he was artistically spent and asked them to keep the remaining funds, even if it meant losing them. Additionally, Jackie recovered his expenses by selling the production and distribution rights to the iconic 39 episodes to CBS for $1.5 million, demonstrating his lack of future ambitions. Another issue was that the written content was strained by the half-hour format. The length of the Honeymooners sketches increased from 7 to 13 minutes, prior to the sitcom's stand-alone spin-off, and ultimately reached 30 minutes or more on the Jackie Gleason Show. Later, it was limited to a rigid half-hour episode format of 26-27 minutes, but Jackie and his writers felt that the format was constrictive. They found it challenging to pace the scripts as a result. The rigorous 2-episode weekly schedule exacerbated creative exhaustion. The authors found it challenging to explore the character relationships and humorous arcs because of the constrained half-hour length. I had too much affection for the show to cheapen it, and the quality of the material could not be maintained, Jackie Gleason remarked, in response to interviewers' questions on why he canceled The Honeymooners after just one season. This comment demonstrates how his commitment to artistic integrity led him to abandon the series, particularly after he witnessed the response of the public to the message he incorporated into the program. Straight to the moon, zoom, bang. There were numerous issues that forced the producers to gradually give up as they battled to keep the show going. Among these was the unexpected backlisting of Per Kelton. In the Cavalcade of Stars sketches, Hurt Kelton played Alice Creighton, but she was subtly swapped when the program switched to CBS. It was made public that Per's abrupt withdrawal was due to health concerns when the show moved to CBS and evolved into a stand-alone series. The reality, however, was more shocking. She was caught up in the anti-communist frenzy of the time. Red Channels, an infamous 1950 magazine that identified suspected communist supporters in the entertainment business, including Kelton and her husband, actor Ralph Bell, on its list. CBS discreetly removed Kelton from the production due to the guilt by association nature of the blacklist. Even though there was no proof of her personal political activity, producers said she had heart issues, but the hidden reality was that Per had been banned from Hollywood for having communist sympathies or connections. For as long as he could, Jackie Gleason supported Keaton's participation on the show, although he was unhappy with the choice to fire her. He kept collaborating with her until he lost the power to oppose CBS and its backers. Despite having to quit the show, Audrey Meadows was a superb replacement who was able to negotiate the best deal on the show. Other cast members weren't happy with Audrey Meadows' special contract, which was another issue that caused some problems behind the scenes. Audrey changed the character when she took over as Alice Creighton after Per left. Over time, however, she was able to earn millions of dollars because she was the only cast member of the Honeymooners episodes to get residual income from syndicated reruns. This was no coincidence. Her brother Edward was a lawyer, unlike the other cast members, and he included a language in her initial contract that guaranteed her payment for any rebroadcasts in the future. Nobody else considered that. As a result, Audrey continued to profit from the show whenever the replays were shown after everyone had left. She and other show cast members had experienced some conflict as a result of this. In addition to her skillful bargaining, Audrey's imaginative metamorphosis of Alice gained significant importance. Jackie Gleason initially turned her down because she was too attractive. She truly changed the way she looked, sending in pictures of herself without makeup, with her hair in curlers and wearing doughy clothes. Jackie perceived Alice in a completely different light after becoming immediately convinced of her sincerity and casting her with the comment, "Any dame who has a sense of humor like that deserves the job." She was bold but loving, sharp-tongued but compassionate. Her Alice could cut Ralph down to size and still wrap up the show with genuine warmth. Unlike a one-knot shrew, she thus succeeded in landing a part that wasn't merely comic relief. She continued to make a lot of money, even after the notorious scene that forced the Honeymooners off the air. There was no denying that the show's backstage operations were quite tense, and Audrey's special contract wasn't the only reason she made so much more money. The tension behind the scenes made it difficult for the event to continue operating smoothly. However, Jackie Gleason, who was meant to be the one keeping everything together, was largely to blame for this tension. Jackie's approach to the Honeymooners is renowned for being unconventional. Rehearsals, in his opinion, sap spontaneity. Before going live, he often just attends one run-through. As a result of Jackie's complete avoidance of rehearsals, co-stars Audrey Meadows and Art Carney had to memorize their lines independently, sometimes in their dressing room. High levels of stress resulted from this. Joyce Randolph, for example, recalled witnessing an actor get so anxious that he puked in the wings. Typically, Jackie had to remind the actors to pat his stomach if they forgot a line. However, this only heightened their anxiety. To make matters worse, Jackie had a notorious off-camera reputation. He was a big drinker who typically partied into the night while wearing hotel suits that were soundproof to avoid disturbing other people's clothing. He didn't only drink during the day. He occasionally arrived for filming inebriated or even intoxicated. He experienced awful mood swings as a result. Thus, he was ebullient and unpredictable one moment, and charismatic the next. That was just as heated as the notorious scene that forced the Honeymooners off the air and made many people uneasy. Jackie made some excessive requests because of his prominence. He insisted on having the longest limousines possible. In fact, he even demanded that one be cut 3 inches long and placed at each studio entrance so that he could exit through any door. Talk about your tendency to be a control freak. He also led an extremely demanding lifestyle. He planned a whole train full of friends, musicians, and even sex workers when he moved the production to Miami, not the cast or crew, as you might think. Others, meanwhile, had to pay for their own transportation. In addition to his problematic relationship with Art Carney, which led to a number of problems on the set, Jackie was a major source of tension for the ensemble. Art Carney and Jackie Gleason were as popular on television as Ed Norton and Ralph Creighton. Although their humor was flawlessly matched and quotable, there was a noticeable strain in their chemistry behind the camera. Indeed, a lot of people claimed that Jackie was intimidated by Art's better sense of humor. He also acknowledged it, saying, "You should see my insides when audiences react more to Carney than to him. I smile on the outside." Furthermore, Jackie's careless approach to professionalism irritated Art. In fact, he pledged never to collaborate with her again when the show concluded. When they appeared in the 1985 television film Izzy and Mo, they betrayed their pledge approximately 30 years later. Interestingly, Art had no grudges. Jackie was gracious and encouraged Art to get chuckles, even if they overshadowed him. According to him, who continued to declare Jackie the best man to work for, Jackie discreetly and unobtrusively increased Art's wage, after learning that he was receiving a better salary elsewhere. During a subsequent reunion project years later, Jackie openly recognized Art's genius and credited him with up to 90% of the Honeymooners' success. However, many others on the show were impacted by the tension between the two performers. Despite this, fans continued to pay close attention to the TV series, particularly because of its iconic 39-episode format. The Honeymooners' iconic 39 episodes, which ran from October 1955 to September 1956, are renowned for their independent narratives, in which events in one episode have no bearing on those in subsequent ones. There is a different setup, conflict, and resolution every half hour. Furthermore, there are no recurring plot lines, story arcs, or props. For example, Ralph and Ed purchase a television set to share in TV, or not TV, but by the following episode, the TV is gone and things resume as they were. Additionally, Alice installs a telephone in the babysitter, but it vanishes without a reason. The adoption of a dog by Alice occurred once more in the subsequent episode. Ralph became connected to the pet, but it is never brought up again. Because viewers could tune in at any time without becoming confused, these stand-alone narratives not only made each episode interesting and approachable, but they also highlighted the show's rhythmic, sketch-like format. Themes such as Ralph's attempts to get rich, personal conflict, and working-class struggles reappeared, but they were not developed over time. Instead, they were reinterpreted in each performance. This method produced a somewhat classic vibe. Instead of serialized storytelling or developing arcs, viewers were given periodic glimpses. The outcome contributed to the Honeymooners' continued fame, in spite of the scandalous episode that ended its run. However, the show's contentious features and topic were another factor. Fundamentally, the Honeymooners depicted marriage in a realistic working-class manner. Ralph Creighton, a bus driver who longs for a better life, is far from the idealized sitcom families of his time, and frequently lets his frustrations explode into hilarious rage. His trademark exaggerated warnings, such as "one of these days, pow, right in the kisser," or "bang zoom, straight to the moon," were dramatic, explosive, and timed perfectly. Although these threats were humorous to the audiences, they also appeared to be disturbing reminders of accepted violence. Furthermore, there was no sense of danger in Alice Creighton's response. She never shown fear and typically responded with scathing sarcasm. Because of this dynamic, fans perceived Alice as the real emotional pillar in their relationship, making the joke seem more ridiculous and less dangerous. It's understandable why the Honeymooners were taken off the broadcast after that one notorious scene. Current discussions, however, show a reassessment of culture. According to Ken Levine's blog article, Ralph's threats can be viewed as inappropriate in the present day, due of Hashimoto knowledge. But he contends that context is important. The audience was always aware that Alice was never truly in danger, and that the threats were unfounded. The conflict between discomfort and nostalgia has also been discussed by fans. For example, viewers have said that even if Ralph's threats are intended to be humorous, they are so frequent that they are unsettling to contemporary audiences. Others, however, think Alice was actually in charge of the show. Despite this, a notorious moment forced the Honeymooners to stop, leaving a lasting legacy and impact on Hollywood. Even though the Honeymooners only ran for one season, it had a significant and long-lasting impact on American television. Being among the first sitcoms to feature a married, working-class couple, it broke the mold of slick suburban family stories and set the standard for authenticity. The impact of the show is extensive. Its concept served as the direct inspiration for animated blockbusters, such as The Flintstones. Additionally, the interactions between Ralph and Alice are echoed by Harriet and Fred, Barney and Betty, and even the creators acknowledged that they were influenced. Its depiction of working-class existence has served as inspiration for certain contemporary sitcoms, such as Roseanne, The King of Queens, and Married with Children, which use likable, imperfect characters to reflect common hardships. Its witty catchphrases, such as "Baby, you're the greatest," "Straight to the moon," "Bang," and "Zoom," are also deeply ingrained in American popular culture. Despite only airing 39 episodes, The Honeymooners established themselves as a comedy classic, inspired generations of shows, and pioneered sitcom realism. Many of the cast members became well-known, and the program left a lasting legacy. Art Carney received a great deal of praise from critics for his performance as Ed Norton on The Honeymooners, along with successive individual accomplishment, honors for The Jackie Gleason Show. He won several Primetime Emmys, including Best Supporting Actor in a Regular Series and Best Actor in a Supporting Role. Carney's performance in Harry and Tanto earned him an Academy Award for Best Actor in 1974. With Broadway triumphs, like creating Felix Anger in The Odd Couple, and winning another Emmy in 1984 for his performance in The Awful Joe Morin, he further cemented his legacy. Jackie Gleason, meanwhile, used his role as Ralph Creighton to further his own reputation. Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, he hosted and starred in The Jackie Gleason Show, a well-liked variety show that combined comedy, music, and skits, including a revival of The Honeymooners. From a 1961 Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor for The Hustler to iconic roles as Sheriff Buford T. in Smokey and the Bandit and Requiem for a heavyweight, Gleason demonstrated remarkable range on the big screen. Justice and subsequent roles with Tom Hanks in Nothing in Common. After the show, Audrey Meadows also achieved success. When the show went into reruns, she became the only cast member of the iconic 39 episodes to receive residual compensation after taking on the character of Alice Creighton and negotiating a unique and progressive deal. This astute maneuver, made possible by her lawyer brother, guaranteed that, in contrast to her co-stars, she received a sizable income from syndication. In addition, she received an Emmy, was nominated for an Outstanding Supporting Actress award, and continued to perform on television long after the show ended, appearing in hit shows including The Simpsons, Too Close for Comfort, and Murder, She Wrote, until her death in 1996. Many were astonished when the notorious scenario that forced the Honeymooners to leave the air occurred, particularly due to its unspoken ramifications. However, what are your thoughts? Was the show's abrupt conclusion truly justified by that notorious scene? Or was there more going on behind the scenes that we might never find out about? Please share your opinions in the comments section.